Hello friends and welcome to the new professional series. I'm Veronica, your American in Portugal, and I've been here since 2017. Today in this series we welcome Raquel from Lighthouse Consulting. She's going to talk to us a little bit about setting up a business here in Portugal, as well as buying real estate in Portugal, the pitfalls, as well as things you need to know. Hello friends and welcome to your American in Portugal. And a special welcome to Raquel with Lighthouse Consulting. As you know, I always believe in using a professional and using resources with current updated information from an expert. So please welcome Raquel with Lighthouse Consulting. Can you tell us a little bit about you, your background?
Yes, well, first of all, thank you so much. I have a law degree. My whole career was as a legal consultant, 20 years in the banking industry, finance industry, insurance. I actually started working in the regulators, so the Portuguese SEC, and then had a 20-year career. And then 2 years ago, I had my third daughter, and after 20 years in the biggest private bank in Portugal, I just up and left. And I call that my most sane move of my life. The middle one is in an international school here, so I have a lot of expats friends with whom I talked a lot about legal stuff and business stuff, who I just already counseled in some way. Then I created Lighthouse Consulting in a way to help expats that are coming over who need legal advice, specialized more in the business area because that's what I like more. I mean, at the start, I did visas and stuff. That's not something that I really like. So I ended up focusing more on businesses. So creating businesses, creating companies for people, registering freelancers, business consultancy is a big one. So optimizing a company, let's say you already have a business, but you want to make sure that it's optimized, there's things to better, or even check if an idea for a business is good. We can do a business plan, we can do whatever. Okay.
But so in that learning for yourself, educating other people in the knowledge that you already have between legal, finance, businesses, and the bits and pieces that come together when you do own your own business. So
Yes.
you'd actually be like a really good person to communicate with for people abroad who want to establish
Oh, yeah.
a business here. And I think
Yes.
that's where our conversation was headed the other day, is people have differing opinions or crowdsourced opinions on how
Oh,
taxation work. Yeah, exactly. Like you saying crowdsource, which is awful. It's like, stop it. You're different than anybody else. Your taxes are different. Your business program's different. What's right for you may not be right for somebody else, or what was right for them isn't right for you. People are just starting businesses without a full plan. So one, a business plan, but two, setting up the taxation correctly to
yeah.
begin with. So maybe you can start with that also and just give us a little bit of a tip on the two different ways you can set up your business here. And I think you were also talking about that 25% deduction. Go from there a little bit, and then also how you really need a consultation before you start
Oh.
any plans, and the consequences if you don't.
To get down to basics, the two ways that you can create a business in Portugal is you either set up as a freelancer, so you register as a freelancer, and that means there's no company that you create. It's still your own. It's still on your own personal income, your IRS, so personal income tax, okay? There's you can invoice, but it's still your NIF. Everything you gain, it compounds to your income, and you get tax on personal income tax. The second way to create a business in Portugal is to create a company. And to create a company is to create a whole entity beside yourself. So you create a new being, let's say. It has its own NIF, its own bank account, its own social security number. So it's a completely separate thing. It pays corporate income tax, and it's another entity. And sometimes people don't realize this. When people create a company, they don't know, should I pay this with my personal bank account or the company bank account? So they don't really understand this difference. Business, anything business related, company. Personal, I mean, you can go out to eat, you can buy clothes, you can do whatever you want, but that's your personal finance world. So basically, these are the two ways that you can open a business, very different ways. Then, of course, there's a lot of different types of company you can create, but usually we go to the similar one of an LLC in the USA. So a limited liability company here in Portugal. Again, just today, this morning, I had 2 consultations, more or less about the same thing. Should I freelance? Should I create a company? And 2 completely different decisions in each case. So
some people come over here with a pretty simple business model. Maybe they're going to teach a few English lessons here or there, or give a few tours or something and keep it stupid simple. Is that where you'd see more of the freelancers going?
yes, and yes, Veronica, you're spot on. If it's a very simple business, and I've had, a lot of people that it's almost like one-offs,
Yeah.
It completely depends if you have your income solo or if you have your husband or whatever more expenses that you have. As a rule of thumb, I would say at least from 40K up, it will for sure compensate to have a company. Why? Because again, if we are not talking about NHR, anything over 2,000 and something a salary a month is already getting you in that top tax bracket. I mean, I lived it. I earned very well in the banking industry. I didn't even look at my salary receipt because over half of it, I never saw that. I never saw it.
40% high. Isn't there a 48% tax bracket though? What's
The maximum this year because of the government is 45%. So it was
45.
48, it's now 45.
Oh, which is good.
But on top of that, you add Social Security. And if you're an employee, 11% of that is on you. You're paying that. So it's more than half in any case. So when you're a business, you still pay, of course, Social Security. If you're a business and you hire someone, the complete tax is 34.75. So 11% on the employee's part to pay, 24.75 to you, company pay. When you're a shareholder and manager of a company, like there's no employees, it's a different tax. I think it's 24% of Social Security that you pay, so it's a bit less, but you still have to pay Social Security. One thing that can make the decision go either way is the fact that if you go the freelancer way, you have exemption from Social Security for a year. Okay, and that's relevant. So you can even say, okay, and of course, under that threshold of the VAT, you're exempt from VAT. So, and as a company, you're never exempt from VAT. So you can say, okay, at the start, at least for that year, if you're not making tons of money, go the freelancer way. And then once you lose that exemption from Social Security, absolutely go and create a company, because when you create a company, you can define your own salary. And defining your own salary means defining how much you pay of Social Security.
Absolutely. And especially if you have deductions you can use. So if you legitimately have a business trip, like what we just did this weekend in Lisbon, we had to drive, get a hotel to go to a Predimed event. That could have been deductible and coming from the company, right?
100%.
So we wouldn't have been taxed on that. But as independents,
Yeah.
we have a standard 25%, but we may be at a 50% expenditure rate between, videos and
Exactly.
all the things, and we're maxed out at 25%. So it sounds like that first year would be a great year to kind of learn and bump up and then transition.
Exactly.
And there a large cost in transitioning, like let's say your fee setting somebody up from a activity or freelancer to setting up to a
Company.
corporation or company. let's say you personally, if you were the one to set it up, what would be a basic amount people should
The
cost would be?
commercial costs, so the commercial registry costs are around 400.
Okay.
It may depend on the solicitor fees. It may depend on if you go to Empresa na Hora or Empresa Online, but let's say 400. Get it in your head that it's around 400 for just for commercial registry,
Just to register, okay.
just
So
to
that's like
register,
to register with.
and the commercial registry.
So like what we would, when we registered an LLC or a corporation or a partnership, getting your EIN number, all that kind of stuff, there's a cost to just register. That's not like your cost. So that's okay. So mentally you're like, oh, it's going to cost me 400 just to get it in the books as a legal entity. And then as you said on the show, it takes about a month or so to show up legally.
Yeah.
Okay.
It can, but for instance, this week I had a quite a surprise because I filed the company Thursday or Friday, because Thursday was a holiday, right? So we
Right.
filed Friday, and yesterday it was authorized. So I was like,
That's like
that's
3
amazing.
business days.
So there's really no rule. I prefer to give it the longer deadline and then
Always.
surprise.
Under promise and over deliver.
Exactly.
Always, and I don't care where you are in the world, do that and your life will be
That's
so much
it.
easier
That's it.
because, you know.
So that's the cost of registry. For instance, if you go to a professional like me, because I don't just open a company, it's like a whole training process,
Right,
bylaws, everything like that. Then there's my fees.
okay,
And then what you have to consider as well when you create a company is the social capital, so the share capital, okay? Because what you're going to do is set aside some money that is going to belong to the company. It's going to go into the company's bank account. And that's the money that you have to run the business. It's not out of your own pocket anymore. It's out of the company's pocket. But in order for the company to have some money, you as a shareholder have to give it some money. So that's what, and there's no limit, there's no minimum for share capital. Even today I said, look, €1. And it may depend, for instance, if let's say you're transitioning from freelancer to a company, you already have clients. So you already have an idea of the income that it's going to come. So you don't need that much share capital. Whereas with a business like mine, when I started, I had no idea if I would even have clients. So I had to make sure that the company had enough money to live or to survive for, let's say, a year. And the basic costs that you're going to have are the accountants and social security on your part, because you're a manager, at least yours, you'll have to account for. And the minimum you can pay as a manager of a company in social security is one IAS, which is an index for social security. But in any case, that ends up being nearly €200 in social security every month. That's the bare minimum. If you
versus an activity, if you don't make any money, it's 20 a month.
yes,
Just want to make sure that, people have just a basic guideline, as the owner of a company, bare minimum is going to be at least 200 a month. So you'll be paying that versus an activity or freelancer is going to be 20. So you want to look at that and say, okay, if I'm going to start this year, I need a very minimum 200 a month. So easy math, 12 times 2, 24. That account's going to need to have the 2,400. And as you said, to pay your accountants. Can you add more to that at a later date, or that all has to be in at one time?
You can add more to the share capital, but that's going to mean a change in registry. So what we want to do when you create a company is, this is something that I tell all my clients. Think about everything that you want to do now and that you may want to do in the future, because we'll include all the activities right now.
Yeah.
And if you don't do them, you don't do them, that's fine. But if you do end up doing them, you're already registered. So we won't need to change the registry, because anytime you change it, it's €220.
Wow. Okay.
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 I just remembered from a case today, this morning. it may make a whole lot of difference in terms of costs if in a couple there's like two freelancers and then one of them creates a company. If you then include both shareholders and both managers in one company, of course, you're only paying one accountant for two people, let's say, and you can include all sorts of activities in the same company. They don't have to be compatible. They don't have to be the same. They can be completely different. So that's a way to organize, let's say, if both people in the couple are entrepreneurs, if you are both freelancers, and if that income starts coming up, forget about it. Whereas if you have a company,
You're okay. So you have one who's maybe, let's do civil engineer and real estate agent, and the civil engineers
fine.
start doing the surveys for the real estate agents. So then that puts them on, yeah, there's different activities because he's an actual engineer. And then here's somebody who's doing
Yeah,
sales, but it's all under real estate and working for that client. Then they can put another activity of marketing, because maybe eventually they'll hire a marketing person, or one of them will be doing a marketing activity, maybe even, getting cross referrals in that
yeah,
world. So
get it
something like
all.
that. Or if you're a restaurant, then who knows, maybe you also have a separate, I don't know, wine bar or something that's the same but different. I guess a restaurant, that was a bad analogy. You'd have alcohol in, of course.
Yeah,
If there's something else you do on the side, maybe there's the business working side, so you're charging for computer access, or work center,
whatever it is.
or yeah. So again, really thinking of that up front, which in the real world, you should always have a business plan. And I think a lot of people do get into business without a business plan. And sometimes you can create your business plan and go, wow, this is a bad business, I'm not going to do it. So it keeps you from failing, and it's well worth the money because you can spend thousands and thousands. How hard is it to file a dissolution of a company if you found out you were wrong? Is that pretty easy or difficult?
It's not as easy as it is in the States. I know that. It's the more employees or the more suppliers that you have, the more things you have in your business, the more difficult it will be. If it's a very simple business, if there's no debt, there's no anything, it's easy enough. But it's not something simple. So that's why I say don't get into a business just because you love the idea of being an entrepreneur. That's why I also, when I create companies for my clients, I take my time and I do 2 or 3 or 4 sessions just to make sure that they're mature enough in the idea of what it means to have a business.
Yes.
Because sometimes we create a company and then the person says, oh, but I mean, I don't know if I'm gonna have activity right away. And I'm like,
Why did
well,
we create it? Why didn't we wait, set up the whole plan, the formula, and the minute you're ready to go, then we go?
well, then what did you think you were going to do? All right. So
And in
and
America, you can do that overnight. You can just file for a partnership or a sole proprietorship. You get your EIN number, boom, you're rolling, and you can use personal income tax. Well, I guess it would be like an activity here, but you
yeah,
filed officially, and you can commingle that. But again, I love your idea for those who have NHR to kind of take that first year. You've already got kind of a business plan. You're seeing what's happening. And at the end of that first year, boom, then decide if it's right for you to stay where you're at,
within,
but again, this is where I say talking to someone like you helps you. That little piece of advice could save somebody. And so by
yeah.
talking to you, we don't know what little nuggets you would get that somebody else would get. Because with your consultation, I feel like I'm doing a sales pitch. I'm not, but just true. You've got to
Continue,
use your
please.
professionals. And I know a
Yeah,
lot of people that come over here are working here, and they've continued their work from America, and they forget that now you're under a complete different regime here because you physically moved yourself. Even if you haven't filed, they think they can still continue to earn income and money. And the point is if you're living here, you're going to be taxed here.
oh
And
yeah,
you,
that's
I had
that's a good point.
well, I had a blogger friend where I was like,
wow, okay, you guys came from Spain and you've lived all these places. I said, so did you register here? And they said, oh, no, we've already been running everything through America for years. And I'm like, I'm not going to say anything, but you really need to talk to your CPA.
Right. I
Yeah.
mean, a lot of people keep things like smile and wave. They just keep things as they are. And I'm
You
like,
can't do that. You're in another country.
your activity is being run here.
Yeah.
Do you not think the Portuguese government will think that they have the right to tax? They will. Oh, and another thing is people asking, they want to have a business here, but I want to set up a company in Lithuania, or I want to
Malta, everybody wants to do it in Malta or Isle of Man or all these
exactly.
tax
No,
advantage places.
no, you're
No,
here.
you're here.
So set up a company here.
Yeah. Oh.
Or in Madeira. Madeira has a special tax regime. So
But you have to be in Madeira.
whenever someone finds that out, they immediately say, "Oh, I want to register in Madeira," and I say, "Great, go live there.
Yeah,
Go have
you've got to
your
live
company there,
there.
your business there."
Maybe that's something that you'll teach them. They'll sit down.
You brushed on something, Veronica. We've talked about this yesterday, which is I ended up having to go get my real estate license because my clients that I had as businesses started to ask me for help to buy houses here. And this started because one client of mine was, oh, I'm going to buy a house there. And I was like, okay. And I found out and I found my house. I mean, it's this, he sent me the link and I looked up the link. You're not going to buy this house. And he was like, why? It's such a great price. And, you're not going to buy this house because, but it's in Quinta da Marinha. And I said, no, it's not. It's very close to Quinta da Marinha, but it's in a
It's not.
terrible streets.
No.
So you're like paying the price for Quinta da Marinha without being in Quinta da Marinha. So
Yeah.
that's horrible. So each street is each street.
So I think you're touching on a point also where it's unfortunate that not everybody is required to have a license, only the broker. So you would be considered a broker. So you went and got
Yes.
a license. Nobody, like you could hire 100
Oh,
agents
yeah.
and go out
That's
tomorrow
right.
without any training and go run and just start selling. And the misinformation that's also given by real estate agents, whether it's intended or not, they don't have the knowledge to do the proper due diligence, which is
Right.
required. And yes, the companies have attorneys, but the attorney's job is to get the documentation in to make the sale close and to protect the company, not protect that end buyer. And there's no responsibility for that. You can take them to court, but good luck. You know,
Yes.
it's
Good
a
luck.
long process. I think in America and especially California, we're very litigious and we go, fine, I'm going to do it now and I'll just sue you. It's not going to happen here. You need to plan, have the right agent or broker, and ask the right questions in advance. And lawyer writing the contracts, and I have videos on that, so I'm not going to get on my soapbox about it. But everybody thinks, oh, I just walked into a broker's office, so everything's going to be legit. There's a lot of fraud out there. The notary will protect some things. If you have a loan, that's even better. The bank will check things
Yes.
out. But there's really nobody to protect you from saying it's this street or not.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's like you really know the price per square meter of that area. But somebody who, in your case, you have the license.
Yeah.
The other brokers can just get rid of that agent. Oh, well, that happened. But with you, this is your license. This is your livelihood.
Yeah, it's you're completely right, of course, and it's very different from the way it works in the United States because, of course, everybody's really surprised here when the prices of the sales are not public. Nobody knows.
Yes, people don't know that. It's not, the banks have an idea of what the price per meter is. And we see the reports from the government and what things are being sold for, but it's private information. So there's no way Cassifari and Idealish to have some kind of tools, but it's all based on listing price, not the actual sales price. Because again, that's private. So how could they aggregate that data and give you an actual number per square meter? And again, even the government reports, it's very general. So, if they're saying the greater Lisbon area. To your point, you could have one street and another, and it's a night and day difference.
Yeah, and here in Kashgar is the same, eh? So that's how important it is to have someone local. And I just reminded me of a client of mine for whom he was like, is this a good neighborhood? Is this like, this is not a social housing project, or
Important
because the
point,
houses
important
were
point.
very similar. And I was like, no, you're fine. I mean, I have someone that lives here for 20 years. It's fine because, there was a little park, but okay, the houses really were very similar to one another, and they were kind of old. So he was like, am I getting into a social housing project now? No, you are not. This is cool. This is fine. Will I not be embarrassed to bring my friends here? No, it's fine. You're okay.
Okay. Well, and
Whereas,
sometimes the exteriors of some of the older buildings can look a little sketchy, but they're gorgeous inside.
oh yeah,
Beautiful area. It's just a matter of Portuguese inheritance law, which I'm sure the government will get control of in the future. But there can be some streets that are just falling down, dilapidated. It's not that it's a slum or social housing or an issue. It's just a matter of those kids. There's 10 of them and they won't agree.
yeah,
One says I want to sell,
that's a
one
real
doesn't.
problem.
And that's a planning problem, right? So
Yeah.
again, when you purchase something, the next thing you're going to want to think of is creating a will, because when you're from abroad, you have
Yes.
the choice of the Portuguese will, of the will from your home country. I'm also German, so I had the choice of 3 different laws. My attorney said, we're going to craft your will. Are we going to make it German law, Portuguese law, or American? And I said, oh, my documents are already in America, so let's point those
Yeah.
documents and cross those documents with each other. Are you also doing that, or do you send to somebody else for the wills and those type of?
I'm a firm believer in specializing,
Okay,
and
so
we
you are
can't do everything. You can't do everything, point.
yeah, yeah.
Full stop. And if you want to be updated on, as we've discussed, that we have to be, there's no possibility of being a general practitioner, let's say. I have in my team, because within these 2 years, I had to work with a lot of people, and so I started gathering a team of professionals that I now rely on. And of course, for instance, for visas or immigration stuff that I don't like to do, I always refer my team member who likes to do that. She's a lawyer as well.
Which we have to talk about that too, because we need a good team for immigration. I think as it's
Yeah.
getting more and more difficult.
To offer legal advice, yes, you either have to have a law degree like me,
Mhm.
or be a lawyer. Any legal advice, whatever the theme may be, you need what is called here a jurist, which is a person with a law degree, or a lawyer.
Use an attorney, use a financial professional, use business professional. Don't crowdsource, please.
Exactly, because these relocation companies, they advise,
Mhm.
they give advice. They cannot not give advice on the laws of immigration. And so when they're doing that, they are illegal, because
Okay.
they're giving advice on legal themes. And here's a fun fact. I've had, I did my law degree. I had a specialization in business law and finance law and all of that. I actually started my career in Ernst & Young in tax compliance.
Oh, my sister did too. I didn't know that.
It was in Lisbon, of course, and it was tax compliance. It was my very first job out of law
That's
school.
great. Oh, so you're doing tax compliance because you were at that point on the law side.
And even, I mean, even just knowing the difference between an invoice receipt, a receipt. A lot of people are freelancers and they don't know this. I was explaining 2 days ago to a client of mine who was already a freelancer, was already invoicing, and she didn't know this difference. So I was like, okay, if you're not getting paid immediately, don't issue an invoice receipt,
Yeah.
because then what you're saying is that you've already received that money.
Right, you're gonna get taxed on that even though they don't
Yeah.
send it. And I think one thing to clarify for people from America is you create an invoice, but it's not an invoice, like we just have QuickBooks and make an invoice.
Oh, yes.
The invoice is done.
Thank you for bringing that up.
Yeah. It's done in the computer system of the government. It would like be going into your own personal IRS site and typing it in. So you're actually sending to the government right there an acknowledgement that you are going to collect money from this person. And oh, by the way, here's the VAT tax, which is there is a sales tax on services. They've been trying to do this in America and keeps getting shot down. But you have to pay 23%, right?
23%.
23% IMT, VAT, sales tax, whatever we want to call it. So if you're doing a consultation, and let's do easy math, you're 100 an hour, let's say you're 100, I have to pay you 123.
Yep.
That 23 needs to be listed on that receipt. And if you don't do it, that's coming out of you. So now you subtract the 23, which you discussed yesterday. That
Yes, as a
actually
deduction.
make sure that then if you want to make 100 an hour, you need to say it's 125, easy math. Or if you're fine with just getting, 78, then just, again, do 75 and
Exactly.
keep easy round numbers, because you can do 75 and 23 or 77 and 23. So it
Yeah.
rounds to that easy number,
Yeah.
199. It's so different here. And, it's great if you're coming here to retire and this doesn't apply to you and you go, wee. But if you're entrepreneurial, which I think a lot of us are, that are like these global, we want to travel, we want to see the world. Oh, God, we have all these skills. Let's keep them going. It's a whole different world here. Well, it's not, in that you can do your tasks and help people and do marketing and all of that, but the taxation you need to be aware of. And again, this is where the planning comes in.
Not to bring this up, but it is. You cannot imagine the quantity of people that have this. I'm already writing invoices. I have a great template in Word, and I was like, "You're doing it."
Or not even QuickBooks, it's in Word.
You're so far off. So don't have any presumptions that any other country will work the same. Every country is different.
Yeah, absolutely.
And every country is different.
Yeah.
Every country is different.
Yeah.
And this again to say that the tax portal can be a very complicated tool, but again, it does have a lot of information. You can extract a lot of information. It can be very useful. And one of the key tools for a freelancer is that you have an invoicing program for free, because you can issue your invoices through the tax portal and it's free. It's right
now
there.
There's no really reporting to do because it's all in there. So when you're CPA, you don't call them CPAs though. What's the best thing to call them? Chartered accountants?
I like revisor oficial de contas here. So it's effectively a different thing. Like for instance, in
Registered,
big
right?
companies, in corporations, it has to be a ROC to sign the accounts at the end of the year. It can't be just an accountant. It has to be a special kind of.
For taxation, you can essentially use someone who's just a regular accountant. And what's
Yes.
in closing, first of all, did we miss anything you wanted to talk about, or that I segue around? I get the aha here and there.
No, I don't think so. We've approached the real estate side, which is something that I wanted to do. Thank you. And we've approached the business side. And Veronica, please put this on. You have so much knowledge. You are so aware. Jesus, woman, seriously. It's not like even all the thoughts to get to the specific questions, you know things, you know how things work here. That's very profound knowledge. Congrats, kudos. Even as an entrepreneur, it was a good challenge, because you were right. I was about to say what you were saying already.
So sorry, I interrupted you.
I was like, yay!
Well, I do believe in using the professionals, so I haven't gone out and crowdsourced and gotten all this crazy stuff in my mind.
Yeah, probably.
I've talked to the professionals. I use a professional. The professionals do my taxes, help set up the activity, help. And so I don't get all these extra things confusing in my brain. I think it's easier to learn things correctly and
Oh,
do
yeah,
things correctly from the beginning, which is, I think, why I'm such a strong advocate and how I know that if they come direct to you, even in the stages of creating their business
oh, yeah,
plan, you can then say, okay, go home. I've got all this homework for you. Put these things together, do a little bit more research and come back, and then we'll fine hone it and
exactly.
set you up correctly. Or same thing with real estate. And we
Yeah.
discussed today on the Good Morning Portugal show that some of these tools that are out there are so crazy and all over, and people are registering each other's clients, and
Oh,
it's just bonkers. Yeah, the minute again, friends, if you're online, do not send emails to those agents, because then when you decide and interview and pick your agent, which you should do first anyway, if that agent shows a property from the agent that you asked to send an email, they're going to say, oh, that person's in my system. Thank you. They're my client. You can't work with them anymore. Even though that
it's
person
insane.
never interacted, they may not have even answered their email. They're like, no, you're registered. You're my client. Like, no, you're not. You don't own me. Yeah, you sent them an email. They own you.
So that's probably one of the most blatant like crimes against database protection and data protection laws that I know. I had a buyer and they asked me, "Oh, I need your client's email and and name." And I was like, "What do you mean? I mean, do you know any privacy laws? I can't do that. I can't give you their data. Do you understand that?" And they're, no, no, you have to because, okay, so you can give me just some of their phone numbers. And I was like, but then what is that for? Okay, it's John Smith and it's 9633333.
There you go. This is your client. Yeah. I
I
have told
can't.
some people, if you feel you have to do this, you just have to go in and ask for information. I said, you better create a whole separate email and a separate name and a separate account, a separate Gmail, just so you can get answers back. And it's still crummy because you're wasting that agent's time. You're
Yeah.
asking them to sit down and reply to you and answer emails to you when you have no intent on working with that agent. All the information is already in there. What they don't do, unfortunately, is list where the house is, because there's non-exclusive agreements.
Yes.
And when somebody lists, and that's where, you
It's
know,
a mess.
and I think this could be fixed so easily by each person having the education, a real estate license, and then you can have a complaint against the license. Because at this point, you
Yeah.
can only do a complaint in the complaint book against the
The
company,
company.
not the individual agent, correct?
Yeah,
But you
correct.
could list the agent's name, correct?
Oh, yes, for sure.
Or who was doing this, but generally that type of behavior is taught by the broker to tell the agents, hey, do this so you can hoard everybody that's, just pushing more information, more information, more
No, it
information.
is. And I was like amazed because I was like, first of all, why would you need that? Second of all, it goes against any data protection law that I know. And this is probably the one sector that is completely off, like going cowboy and not
I
abiding.
love it, going cowboy.
I,
Oh, wow.
like, what the hell? I can't. It's a crime. If I give you their details, it's a crime. I
Yeah,
cannot. Do you
yeah,
understand?
yeah.
And they were like, what do you mean you can't? And I said, believe me, I mean, I'm a lawyer. I studied this. I can't.
I can't, it's illegal, and don't ask me, and it's not okay. Did you want to sell the property or not? And this is where I have run into agents who clearly did not want to sell the property unless they were getting both sides. And so that's their excuse is, fine, we'll just let it sit on the market another 36, 9 months.
They don't even realize what it means to sign, not even a CPCV, a mediation agreement with the agency, with the real estate agency.
Yeah.
They don't realize what the difference between having an exclusive contract and a non-exclusive contract.
Yep.
They don't know. They don't know that when the CPCV comes, what happens with the deposit if
Solve
the
it. And the big next point is that if you fail to perform, you're liable for
double. And people don't know this. And I don't
And do
know
you
how
think they're
people can
telling them
sleep
when
at
it's full
night.
agency? When you walk into an office, do you think they're disclosing that? Oh, by the way, thanks for your 10%. We're now paying all of our agents with your deposit. If it doesn't go through, which do they even have the proper documents, or is
Yeah.
it going to get the appraised value? If the contract isn't written right, they're liable for double. So if they don't even get that loan, you know, easy.
And something as simple, Veronica, as how can you make a foreigner sign a Portuguese contract?
Right? Well, because
Bilingual.
counsel, they'll protect you. No, they're not protecting you. They're protecting the agency. They're not protecting you. And we have one agency in our area that has an in-house attorney. And so I wonder if they're even legally done, except for the
Yeah.
fact that at least they have to have an outside notary. They don't have
Yeah.
a notary license,
Yeah.
to
Well,
my knowledge.
yeah. Thank God for that. But yeah, there's a lot of, there's a lot of sketchy things, and with all the expat community, what I feel the most is that they're already very unprotected. It's a new country, it's a new territory, new laws, new language, and then you get these contracts in front of them and you say, sign these. And they have no clue what they're signing. And apparently there's no one to protect them because they think that the laws of real estate there apply here
No, they
and
don't.
that it works the same. It doesn't. And a lot of problems can arise from that. A lot of problems. It is something to be mindful of. Yeah.
Yep. And one last point before we kind of conclude is, I'm going to be honest, there is fraud out there.
Oh, yes.
Have
Oh, yes.
to have somebody in your corner checking the things for you. And
Oh,
if
yes.
you don't, just plan on that's a gift to the seller, the agency, or maybe just a fraudulent company. So I still say to this day, unless this is someone you actually know and trust that's renting your property, even on a rental, you should have an attorney checking
Oh,
it out.
yeah. Because even the rights of the owners and the tenants, they don't know. They have no clue. I had tons of consultations because of this, because people are renting places and they have no clue what their rights are. Like they rent something and then there's mold on all the walls and they have no idea when they can leave the contract, if they can leave the contract, how much money that's gonna be. They don't know. They're signing contracts. It might as well be a blank page. They don't know what they're signing. And that's criminal to me. That's criminal. So really, I think it's the wisest, is the most basic thing, is to hire someone that's going to have your back, because it's going to save you a ton of money, time, and trouble. In the end, it's going to be well worth it, and you'll have peace of mind, and you'll know how the system works, and you know that you're confident in your businesses or in your house or whatever it is.
So, in closing, first of all, did we miss anything you wanted to talk about?
No, I don't think so. We've approached the real estate side, which is something that I wanted to do. Thank you. And we've approached the business side. And what I say as the most important thing when you want to have a business is surround yourself with the good professionals. True.
Ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. Thank you again, Raquel with Lighthouse Consulting, for joining along in this video and podcast today. If you like the channel, don't forget to hit like, hit subscribe, and if you want to subscribe to my MailChimp, it's in the notes below on the YouTube link, and you can always support the channel by buying me a coffee. That's in the notes as well. Thank you for joining along, and I'll see you in Portugal, my friends. To reach out to Raquel and to get a discount code from me, go ahead and send me an email to info@americaninportugal.com.